Floyd is very well schooled in Christmas stories, Christmas material, Christmas traditions, and I'm very grateful that he is available this evening for our homily.
I love Christmas. Everything about it. But when I love something, I want to see it in its full truth. So I'd like to do a quick review of what we do at Christmas time and how things got that way. Contrary to popular belief and countless Christmas cards, Jesus was not born in a blinding snowstorm. The Gospel of Luke tells us, "And there were in the same country shepherds abiding in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night." Now, the only time the shepherds are in the field is in the spring of the year, when the lambs are being born. At that time, the lambs need extra protection against predators until they learn to run and defend themselves. By November, the lambs are brought into barns to be fed over stored grain during the winter. So by late December, neither the shepherds nor the sheep are in the field. Fortunately, the Edgar Cayce readings give us an exact date for Jesus' birth. On the 19th day of what would now be termed March. Moreover, the Jewish historian Flavius Josephus tells us that King Herod died at the time of a lunar eclipse. Now, if you put all this together, I believe Jesus was born March 19th, 4 BC. So why do we celebrate his birthday on December 25th? That has to do with the Saturnalia, a week-long Roman festival that was held around the winter solstice. During the Saturnalia, the Romans basically took a week off, and they suspended almost all their usual operating rules. For example, servants could sit at table with their master without fear of reprisal for anything they might say. Now, the practice of Christianity was illegal in Rome, punishable by death. But during the goodwill of the Saturnalia, it was much more likely that the Roman guards would just look the other way if they encountered any Christian activities. The last day of the Saturnalia was December 25th. That was the first day that the human eye could discern that the sun actually was beginning to move northward again for another season of agriculture. That day was known as Dies Natalis Solis Invicti, the birthday of the unconquered sun. Well, naturally, the Christians grabbed that one and made it the birthday of the unconquered Son of God in the person of Jesus. So for the early Christians, it was simply a case of when in Rome, do as the Romans do. Literally. So I'd like to dispel a few common misconceptions. Let's start with the wise men. Everyone seems to assume there were 3 wise men. The Bible doesn't say there were 3 wise men, it says there were 3 gifts. Fortunately, again, the Cayce readings tell us something about them. There was more than one visit of the wise men. One is a record of 3 wise men. There was the 4th, as well as the 5th, and then the second group. They came from Persia, India, Egypt, and also from Chaldea, Gobi, and what is now the Indo or Tao land. And every Christmas card has the wise men riding across the desert on camels. Now these were kings, or high priests. Back in those days there wasn't much distinction, let's call them priest kings. They would have been riding on big white Arabian horses. The camels would have been for the baggage. What about the Christmas tree? Many people think the Christmas tree originated in Germany. But the Roman poet Virgil describes a tree brought into a house decorated with bright baubles and surrounded by presents. It's been going on a long time. So what's the deal with bringing a tree into the house? It's an evergreen tree. Deciduous trees lose their leaves and appear dead during the winter months, but the evergreens maintain their needles and continue to produce and drop cones all through the year. It's all about the continuity of life and fertility through the dark days of the solstice and the cold season of winter. But if you thought the Christmas tree originated in Germany, you'd be half right. In more recent centuries, there's been a huge resurgence of everything Christmas in Germany. You think the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree is good? You think the National Christmas tree in Washington is something to look at? It's nothing compared to what they do for Christmas in Germany. Every house, every street, every store. It's the most Christmas celebrating country in the world. In fact, the gingerbread capital of the world is considered to be Nuremberg, Germany. Gingerbread cookies, gingerbread men, gingerbread houses. I used to get those when I was a kid. And gingerbread towns. How about the holly and the ivy? Well, the holly plant's most prominent feature is its red berries, which are the seed of the plant, which is a masculine energy. We have, for example, the legend of the Holly King. The ivy is a slender, creeping or climbing vine and represents a feminine energy. And when you put them together in the same place, you get a lovely Christmas carol and a pagan fertility metaphor, as usual. They also give us the Christmas colors of red and green. Based on the holly and the ivy, those colors represent a balance of masculine and feminine energies. How about mistletoe? Mistletoe is an evergreen plant, well known for its association with oak trees and druids. It was first documented by Pliny the Elder, who wrote about the ceremonies of the Celtic druids in his Naturalis Historia. The Druids believed that the white berries of the mistletoe represented the semen of the gods, so mistletoe was considered a magical aphrodisiac. There's no escape. We're back to the pagan fertility symbols again. I suspect that in the old days, young girls standing under the mistletoe might have been soliciting something a bit more than a kiss, but none of my business. And by the way, contrary to popular belief, paganism is not a religion, certainly not an evil one. If you trace the etymology, the word pagan literally means a person who lives in the country. It's equivalent to the German Landleute, the country folk. I think the main reason that we keep on accumulating more and more Christmas traditions is simply that we like to do it. How about Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer? That story was written in 1939 by Robert L. May, a copywriter for Montgomery Ward department store. The store had been buying and giving away children's books every Christmas, and they thought they could save some money this year by producing the book in-house. So Robert May was tasked to write a children's story for Christmas. His wife was dying at the time, and their 4-year-old daughter was the first to hear the story. He tested it on her as he composed it. But now Rudolph is an absolutely indispensable, eternal part of the Christmas tradition. Created in 1939, that's pretty quick. Last but not least, who's this Santa Claus guy? He was an actual person, almost as old as Christmas itself. Santa Claus is Saint Nicholas, born in Asia Minor, now Turkey, and dating from the 4th century. He came from a wealthy family and was known in his lifetime for giving anonymous gifts. His most famous gift scenario was the dropping of gold coins down a chimney. Some of the coins would land in any socks that had been hung in front of the hearth to dry, hence the tradition of hanging a stocking at the fireplace, expecting a gift to appear in it. He would drop the coins into houses that had unmarried daughters whose family could not afford a dowry, and the coins would enable the daughters to be married, as opposed to living in the street or going into the church, which was their only other option. But I don't think he had reindeer in Asia Minor, nor snow, nor flying sleigh, nor a big red suit with a black belt and boots. So where did we get all that stuff? All that came from a famous poem by Clement Clarke Moore, written in 1823, entitled A Visit from St. Nicholas. It was the night before Christmas, and all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. What's the song that's most associated with the Christmas season? Jingle Bells? Wrong. That was for Thanksgiving. That was written for Thanksgiving by James Lord Pierpont in the autumn of 1857 under the name One Horse Open Sleigh. Oops. And when the heck are the 12 days of Christmas anyway? Christmas Day is the first day, not the last. It goes from December 25th to January 5th. Up until the beginning of the next liturgical season of Epiphany, which starts January 6th. But, of course, the real Christmas story is the birth of Jesus and his subsequent ministry. But it wasn't exactly what you've been told. The Essene community at Mount Carmel labored for 300 years to prepare a channel for the incarnation of the Master Soul. They had selected and trained 12 maidens as possible channels, one of whom was Mary, who was chosen by an angel on the temple steps at the age of 12. When Jesus was young, the teaching priests and masters at Mount Carmel taught him everything they knew. But they knew that wouldn't be enough if his ministry was going to succeed. So they sent him abroad to study under the greatest masters incarnate in the earth at that time. They sent him to India, to Egypt, and Persia. In India, he studied all the ancient writings, the Vedas, the Vedantas, the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, the Ramayana, the Mahabharata. Where do you think he got all that stuff that he came back and taught? The Casey readings describe these travels. From what period and how long did he remain in India? From 13 to 16, 1 year in travel and in Persia, the greater portion being in the Egyptian. In this, the greater part will be seen in the records that are set in the pyramids there, for here were the initiates taught. Outline the teachings which were received in India. Those cleansings of the body as related to preparation for strength in the physical as well as in the mental man. Kind of sounds like yoga to me. In the travels and in Persia, the unison of forces as related to those teachings of Zu and Ra. In Egypt, the teachings in the temple of the crucifying of self in relationships to ideals. Now, it might sound as if I'm criticizing the way we celebrate Christmas, but I assure you I'm not. Remember, I said at the beginning, I love Christmas, everything about it. The idea of incorporating ideas from many different traditions is not a departure from Christianity, it's an intrinsic part of it. It always has been. When the Apostle Paul spoke at Laconia, mention was made of Jupiter and Mercury, two gods with whom the Greeks and Romans would be familiar. When the Catholic Church sent missionaries to foreign lands, they knew they'd never be able to stop the people from going to the sacred tree or the holy river or the healing ground that they'd used for centuries. So they built their churches at the existing sacred sites. And in those early days, they were wise enough to know whether a certain site was predominantly masculine or feminine energy, and they'd erect a statue of Jesus or Mary accordingly. One of the most beautiful examples of Christianity adapting to other cultures occurred in Ontario, Canada, among the Huron Nation, also known as the Wendat people. Father Jean de Brébeuf, in 1643, a Jesuit missionary, wrote a Christmas carol adapted for the native people. He wrote it in Wyandot, the native language of the Wendat, but here are a few excerpts in English. 'Twas in the moon of winter time, when all the birds had fled, that mighty Gitche Manitou sent angel choirs instead. Within a lodge of broken bark, the tender babe was found, a ragged robe of rabbit skin enwrapped his beauty round. The earliest moon of winter time is not so round and fair. The chiefs from far before him knelt, with gifts of fox and beaver pelt. O children of the forest free, O sons of Manitou, the holy child of earth and heaven is born today for you. But the thing that's most important about Christmas is the thing that's independent of any words or any language or any form. It's the Christmas spirit. The spirit of universal love for the entire human family. Agape, as they say in ancient Greek. I can't say it any better than they do in the song. Word of the Father now in flesh appearing. That's exactly what happened. Heaven and earth seem to move a little closer at this time of year. And it's easy to feel that energy here, now, in this space at this time. Even easier in a few minutes when our faces are illuminated by the sacred fires of the candlelight. And when we step outside and take our first breath of a brand new Christmas day. The question is, how long can we retain it? As the spirit of Christmas present explained to Ebenezer Scrooge, we spirits of Christmas live not only one day of the year, but all 365. So it is with a child born in Bethlehem. So let's play a little game. Let's see how long we can hold the energy. Thank you very much, and Merry Christmas.